I'm delighted to welcome today from Nottingham, Narissa Bailey from Serene Therapies, Nottingham. Welcome, Narissa.
Hello, nice to see you. Nice for you to invite me on this podcast.
Most welcome. Just before we go any further, just to reassure anybody watching this that I haven't got the lurgy. I'm just dealing with another bit of skin cancer on my face, so it looks a bit yuck, but it's perfectly fine, and it's on the way out now. So that's why I've got a blob on my face. So there we go. So that bit's done. So Narissa, you're in Nottingham, and we met through Colonics and networking and so on. Can you give the listeners a bit of background on what Colonic, what a Colonic is, what's the purpose, and how you got into it?
Okay, yes. So my story with Colonics is from about the age of 7, I suffered with constipation, and listening to my mum and my sister, it seemed to be quite normal. I kind of realised in my early 40s it was far from normal to go to the toilet once a week. If you're putting stuff in, it needs to be coming out. So having had quite a few laxatives over the last kind of 30 odd years, I realised I had to do something about this. And I knew about colonic hydrotherapy, but it was a bit of a no-go area for me. I had a really traumatic delivery with my son. I had quite bad hemorrhoids, didn't want anybody looking at anything like that. But I decided after about 7 years of contemplating, I'd give it a go. So the first treatment was kind of about rehydrating the bowel and re-educating not only me but my body. And I had quite a good treatment, but when you've had a long-term condition like constipation, one 40-minute treatment isn't going to resolve it. You need to embark on more than one treatment. So to cut a very long story short, I decided to do my training. During my training, I had 10 colonics in 12 days, and I was alarmed, really alarmed at what was coming out. It was like licorice, it was black, and it smelled like tar. It didn't smell like normal waste. And I realised it was probably mucoid plaque that had been in there for years and years and years. That hinders your ability to be able to absorb nutrients from your food. And then that took me on the path of changing my diet, change what I eat, change what I drink, exercise. Obviously, I know Elaine and I know her health story. And I've just become really passionate about holistic therapies now.
Brilliant. So, as you say, you need to kind of become unstuck, as it were, and it's a case of rehydrating, re-educating the body. So, that sounds quite brutal. 10 colonics in 12 days. I don't remember that when we talked about this before. 10 in 12 days, crikey.
So that was my choice. We were training on each other, and that was my choice. So my first couple, I had quite a bad headache, but that's because my gut was so toxic. So the gut is probably it's a very important organ, but probably the most neglected organ of the body. We treat it a bit like a dustbin. Let's keep putting stuff in and hope it's going to work. But you change the oil in your car and you empty your dustbin. But with your gut, 1 week we'll be vegan, 1 week we'll fast, then we won't eat meat, then we will eat meat, then we'll be vegetarian. And I knew after the second treatment that I was beginning to feel better. So they were asking if people wanted another treatment. I was saying yes. They were only kind of 30 minutes. They weren't full-length ones, but it was just training, and I was happy to be a model. I lost about 8 pounds in those 2 weeks. That's not why I did it. But from then on, I've gone to the toilet at least once a day, if not twice a day, and on occasions more than that.
Well, what an interesting conversation. Anybody coming into this talking about poo and waste and so on. So you mentioned the number of times that you go a day. What is the optimal number of times that we should be going in a day, a week?
Well, it's suggested, there's no hard and fast rules, but it's suggested that we need to have at least one bowel movement every day. So with 1, maybe 2 bowel movements a day, you can still hold around about 10 pounds of waste in your body. So imagine if you're not going every day, where's it going?
Absolutely. It's not rocket science, is it? And when you explain it so clearly, it's very, very easy to understand. When I did my
Yeah,
training as a biohacker, I was taught that every time we eat, it should constitute an elimination. So it's a bit like
absolutely.
animals. When I was looking after my daughter and son-in-law's dogs, I would feed them, and then immediately they would go out and poo. The human body isn't
Absolutely.
quite as quick as that, but I was taught in my training that we should be looking, if we're eating 3 meals a day, we should be pooing 3 times a day. We have 2 meals a day,
Absolutely.
two, and so on.
Twice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, the colonics, how long is the treatment normally?
So I ask every first time client to allow 90 minutes. This is so we can complete some paperwork. I can just go through your medical history, although I do check you're okay to have a treatment before you come. I wouldn't get to the stage where you actually attend the appointment and I can't see you. So there are some contraindications. For ladies, obviously, if you're pregnant, you can't have a treatment. Hernia, abdominal hernia, any kind, you can't have a treatment. But if it's hiatus, you can. Any uncontrolled medical conditions. So we complete the paperwork and I will explain what's going to happen during the course of the treatment. And then the treatment itself is about 40 minutes. And then you will need to visit the toilet following the treatment. Most people are in and out in about 75 minutes, but I'd rather err on the side of caution. You allow yourself more time.
Cool, excellent. I remember coming to your clinic in Nottingham and experiencing, and I remember how kind of gentle and thoughtful and considerate you were, because it's not exactly, a very elegant thing to be doing, is it? Going on a machine like that. So can you explain to people how it actually works and how, what sort of physical environment there is?
Okay, yes. So you would start off on your left hand side. So you undress from the waist down. I will provide a gown for you to wear during the course of the treatment and disposable pants. So they're like spray tan pants. They're kind of unisex thong. They're a bit weird, but some people want to use them. That's absolutely fine. And the key with this treatment is you stay as relaxed as possible. So, but with a first time treatment, it's normal to feel a little bit anxious and nervous, which is why it's always a good idea to come back and have a follow up. So we have what's called the brain-gut connection. So the brain in our head is the first brain, the brain in our gut is our second brain. And during the course of the treatment, the brain in the gut may send messages to the brain in the head saying, need to have a bowel movement. And sometimes the brain in our head says, we're lying down here, we've got something in the back passage, that's not happening. So during a lot of people's first time treatments, they have what's known as a toilet break, where we pause the treatment and they can go to the toilet. But if you're relaxed, you can overcome that, and anything that needs to come down the tube will come down the tube. We start on the left hand side just for 5 minutes using body temperature water. Then you roll nice and gently onto your back for the remainder of the treatment. Again, it's body temperature water throughout most of the treatment. However, following herbs that I use about 15 minutes in, I will turn the temperature down to a colder temperature. This will encourage the colon to contract. So there's a process throughout the gut known as peristalsis, and it's like relax, contract motion. So when the water's body temperature, the colon's nice and relaxed. When it's colder, it will contract. So colonic hydrotherapy is like physio for the bowel. And if you think of it as a physiotherapy treatment, if you go to physio, nobody has one treatment of physio and the better. You need to consider more than one treatment, particularly for long-term conditions like constipation. And so I say use some herbs, which are nice and gentle. They just sit in the bottom part of the bowel, 5 minutes. And then I do some abdominal massage and during the course of the treatment, I will change the pressure a little bit to encourage the water further around the large intestine. But whatever I do, I talk it through with the client and check that whatever I do is okay with them first. So they are in full control of the treatment at all times.
Excellent. You mentioned headaches earlier on when you first started. The first couple of treatments, you had a headache. So talk us through why that happens.
So obviously the bowel is quite a toxic area. It's full of waste and you're kind of stirring things up with a colonic. So the toxins were being released into the bloodstream and going up to my brain, into my head, and that's why I got a headache. But after when I had the third one, the headache went. It's just kind of just going with the flow. So I wasn't taking medication. Maybe if I took some painkillers, the headache would have gone on the first day, but I'm not really into that. I kind of needed the body to kind of work its way through this. And now, fortunately, I don't get constipated, I don't get headaches.
So headaches is a form of detoxing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's a sign rather that your body is. I mean, you don't have a headache and detox. That's a sign that your body is detoxing. And what's the difference between? We hear a lot about people doing coffee enemas at home. What's the difference between a home enema and what you offer?
Okay, so obviously it's a more controlled environment. I find enemas at home a little bit messy. So a colonic, the water is aiming to get as far around the large intestine as possible, which is a constant flow in and out of the large intestine. With a coffee enema, it would sit in the bottom kind of 8 to 10 inches of the large intestine. Coffee enemas stimulate the hepatic portal vein, which stimulates the liver and helps to cleanse the liver. I would only do a coffee enema once I've done a colonic, because the liver is a large organ and a solid organ of the digestive system. So I would cleanse part of the hollow organ, which is the large intestine. Then I'd do a coffee enema, which is again administered at body temperature in the same way the herbs are. But I would clamp the outlet tube so it can't come out. It's sat in the bottom part of the large intestine for at least 10 minutes. If I can get up to 12 minutes, I'll do up to 12 minutes. And then I'll pop the client back on the machine just for 1 minute, just to cleanse anything from the bottom part of the bowel. And then they would go to the toilet. So
you can do coffee enemas within your practice, as opposed to people who, I remember when I had stage 4 cancer, I was told, oh, you must do coffee enemas and detox and everything, and it was the most revolting, vile thing ever. And I couldn't. I tried a couple of times, and it's most disgusting. And people who it is a bit messy. Oh gosh, it's revolting. So that wasn't for me. And I remember I did have some colonic treatments before my stage 4 cancer. It was after I'd had some surgery for previous breast cancer, and for at least 3 to 6 months afterwards, I was still getting the smell of the drugs that were put into me when I had surgery. And it's amazing how deep inside your body the medication goes. So I would strongly recommend anybody who's had surgery, particularly anybody who has the constipation, cancers, all the big C's really, we need to get cleansing. So talk to me about vitamin C, because I know vitamin C, high doses of vitamin C is very good also for helping people who have constipation. And you offer a new service now, don't you, with vitamin C?
I do, yes. So recently I've qualified in IV drips. So I'm going to be offering quite a few IV drips. One of the most common ones is the Myers Wellness Drip, which contains a lot of the B supplements. Just bear with me. Let me just tell you what's in the Myers drip. This Myers is one of the original IV drips that was formulated years ago. So there's B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, vitamin B6 and vitamin B12 in the Myers Wellness Drip, and amino acids and glycine. There's a lot of different things in it. But when you have the Myers, if you want to add the vitamin C to it, you can. The vitamin C on its own is a high dose vitamin C, and it's a 10 gram infusion. And the difference with the IVs is your body will absorb as much of that vitamin as it needs. When you take an oral supplement, your body will only absorb a maximum of 20% of that oral supplement, usually about 10, and then the rest we eliminate through urine. But with an IV, your body will absorb as much as it needs, so up to 100%.
Well, that's a significant difference, isn't it? Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's vitamin B and vitamin C are the key things for the IV treatments that you offer.
Yeah, so I'm doing like an anti-aging one, but obviously the vitamin C is really really good and can be added to the Myers with the B complex, or you can have the vitamin C on its own. But I'm doing anti-aging, energy boosting, magnesium, um, anti-aging with amino acids, immune boost, and energy boost. There's quite a lot that I'm going to do, but my aim is for like the vitamin C and the Myers wellness strip. But you can have any of the ones that you want, but you know it's personal preference.
Most people wouldn't know about these, Narissa. So, what sort of people would you be attracting to the clinic with these extra services?
Um, so I think people that are generally feeling unwell. I know there's a lot of people that have been poorly over the last couple of years with COVID, and the people. I've been having the Myers with the vitamin C at another clinic in Nottingham, and I feel a lot better. I was unwell last year, but I think people now are trying to do everything they can to boost their immune system and improve their health. So if you're not well, or even if you are well, you know, we can't ever be too well. I don't think we can't ever be too healthy. So if, you know, you think I want to go and give this a try, come and give it a try. You know, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and it's not going to harm you.
Will it harm your pocket though? Is it expensive?
It is expensive. It is that is a bit of an issue, but they're not cheap to buy. And obviously there's a lot of other things that need to be taken into consideration. So there's the needles, there's the saline, there's the actual product itself. So they range in price, but they are quite expensive. I am looking to do at the moment I'm only qualified to do IV, intravenous, but I am looking at doing the IM, which is intramuscular. But I'm not going to be able to qualify in that probably until the end of the summer. So I could do vitamin C intramuscular when I'm qualified, which will be cheaper than the IV.
Right, okay, so people can contact you direct if they're interested in knowing more, absolutely. And then no
Yes,
doubt,
absolutely.
I'm sure that your fees will vary according to what you have to pay your suppliers, as with in any service and any product that we
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
So, are there any supplements that people could be taking in addition to this sort of treatment? Is there anything that you recommend that people could do at home to look after themselves?
Well, I mean, I still take vitamin C, vitamin D3 with K2. I take zinc, probiotics. I have a list of supplements, and then kind of every 2 months I go for a boost. And quite often, what I do is when I've used a 90-day course of supplements, I'll have maybe one to 2 months off, and then I'll go back on it again. So I incorporate the IV drip with the vitamin supplements, because you can have an IV every month, but as I say, they are quite expensive. So I tend to have 4 a year, so every 3 months. But in the meantime, I'm still taking my supplements.
So that's a good way that people can ease their pocket, so to speak, and then still
Yeah,
be doing some good along the way. Fabulous.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So before we close, are there any top tips that you can recommend people who are just generally feeling unwell? Where do they start?
Well, I think diet, and I've learned an awful lot about diet over the last 10 years. And I think eating as simply as possible. So if you've got something in a bag, a box, a tin, a packet, or a jar, it's been processed in some way. So we are organic food. I'm not sure whether organic food in a supermarket is the same as getting it from an organic farm. I don't think it is. I think we need to know the history of the seed. Is it an organic seed? It might be grown organically, but is it grown from a GMO seed, or is it grown from an organic seed? So I have a weekly delivery from an organic farm, and we eat 95% organic food. So diet is really important. Hydration is really, really important as well. Drinking good quality water, not drinking too much caffeine. I don't drink caffeine at all anymore, and I feel better than I've ever felt. I know that my body doesn't need a stimulant to get up in the morning. Also, this is going to sound a bit bizarre, but I find absolute great delight and I feel wonderful after a cold shower. I can't have hot showers anymore. It's good for your circulation system. It's really good for your brain. So yeah, I highly recommend cold showers. So diet, hydration, cold shower, sleep. And I think also exercise is also a key.
Marvellous, thank you. Woman after my own heart. I've actually started growing for the first time in my life, started growing my own vegetables, and I've got a little plot here. Yeah, I'm just so chuffed with myself, and the things that I've planted are now looking like the things that they're going to grow into. So I've got past the teeny stage. Yeah, it's like my babies that are, you know, growing. It's I'm feeling really quite chuffed about it. So
and you know, the more you talk to your babies, the more they grow. I've learned this. I've got a sun bubble in the garden and a little polytunnel, and I go out and chat to them every day. And the next day there's more. Oh
wow. I shall do that. I haven't been talking to them. I've been thinking and how wonderful they are. But yes, I should actually articulate it, shouldn't I? Yeah, good thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. So how do people get hold of you, Narissa?
Okay, so I've got a website. I'm currently transitioning into a new website, which is Serene Therapies Nottingham. My old website is Serene Colonics. And I can be contacted via email at serenecolonics@gmail.com, but I'm going to be having a new email as well, but everything's going to be forwarded to the new email, so I will get everything. I'm also on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and my telephone number, which is 0797 456 8546.
Brilliant. So Narissa Bailey from Serene Therapies Nottingham.com. Thank you so much for your time today.
Nice to see you, Elaine.